Do you remember the tiny windows conspiracy of 2020? No?
I want to make bigger windows into smaller windows. As far as they're concerned, if you had no window, it would be a lovely thing. This is the craziest plan that anybody has ever seen.
They want to make your windows smaller. That was Donald Trump during the second presidential debate in 2020, attacking Joe Biden's climate change agenda. Now, Biden never proposed making America's windows smaller. That was one of those fever dreams from the mind of Donald Trump. And 3.5 years into the Biden administration, surprise, everybody's windows are exactly the same size. Here's what Biden actually said about his climate plan in that same debate.
We're going to invest in, for example, 50,000 charging stations on our highways so that we can own the electric car market of the future.
Investing in thousands of new EV charging stations. That was the plan. And that is more or less what Joe Biden did as president. He passed a bipartisan infrastructure law with the support of Republicans and Democrats that invested $7.5 billion in charging stations. And the White House tells NBC News that the country is currently on track to hit Biden's charging station goal in 2026, which is 4 years ahead of schedule. America's windows, though, still the same size. The debate that night was a forum where Biden, at least, was explaining what he thought should happen and what he thought was at stake in that 2020 election. The climate stuff was not the only instance of this.
The president also is opposed to Roe v. Wade. That's on the ballot as well in the court. And so that's also at stake right now. And so the election is already
You don't know it's
begun.
on the ballot. Why is it on the ballot?
Because
Why is it on the ballot? It's not
you're-
on the ballot.
It's on the ballot in the court.
I don't think so.
In the court. Well,
there's nothing happening there.
There's nothing happening there. Take away Roe v. Wade, the justices I appointed would never. Turns out, 2 years later, Trump's appointees to the Supreme Court did exactly that, just as President Biden said they would. Now, to be fair, there were some moments in these debates when Trump also gave us a window, a very tiny window, into what he was going to do, like this one.
Are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups?
What do you want to call them? Give me a name. Give me a
White
name.
supremacists and
Who would
white
you like me to condemn?
White supremacists and right
Proud
militia.
Boys, stand back and stand by.
Donald Trump, when asked to condemn racist hate and militia groups, instead told the right-wing hate groups, Proud Boys, to stand back and stand by. And sure enough, they did just that. The Proud Boys celebrated Trump's stand back and stand by comments. They ended up leading the attack on January 6th, and the heads of that organization would eventually be charged and convicted of seditious conspiracy for their role in planning and coordinating the January 6th attack. That wasn't the only foreshadowing of chaos that we got in these 2020 debates. Remember that Trump was also asked how he would direct his supporters as ballots were being counted after election night.
Will you urge your supporters to stay calm during this extended period, not to engage in any civil unrest? And will you pledge tonight that you will not declare victory until the election has been independently certified? President Trump, you go first.
I'm urging my supporters to go into the polls and watch very carefully, because that's what has to happen. I am urging them to do it.
Trump was asked if he would urge his supporters to stay calm and not declare victory until all the votes were counted. And Trump did not answer that question directly. We now know that Trump did not wait until all the votes were counted before declaring that the election was rigged and that he was the true winner. And the answer that Trump did give that night, telling his supporters to go into the polls and watch very carefully, that is now official Republican Party policy. Last month, the Trump campaign and the RNC announced a plan to have 100,000 attorneys and volunteers monitor the 2024 vote count. What could go wrong? All of these things are things we learned about at the 2020 debates between Biden and Trump, which brings me to today. For months, it's been an open question whether Trump and Biden would debate each other ahead of November. But then Just a few hours ago, in a rapid public back and forth, Biden and Trump agreed to 2 debates, one on June 27th and one on September 10th, with a vice presidential debate in July. All of this started when President Biden issued this challenge on social media.
Donald Trump lost 2 debates to me in 2020. And since then, he hadn't shown up for debate. Now he's acting like he wants to debate me again. Well, make my day, pal. I'll even do it twice. So let's pick the dates, Donald. I hear you're free on Wednesdays.
That last bit about being free on Wednesdays was a not-so-subtle reference to the former president's New York trial schedule, where court is not in session on Wednesdays. Donald Trump quickly responded to President Biden's challenge during an appearance on conservative talk radio.
President Biden just issued you a debate challenge for June and September with the Veeps talking in July. Do you accept?
Oh, absolutely. I really think he has to debate. He might as well get it over with. Probably should do it early so that he can, he's not going to get any better.
No, but June and September is great.
Every day is a down factor for him.
The campaigns are still hammering out all the details here. And look, anything could happen between now and then. But at this moment, it looks like this thing is happening.